Hello, this is John Lennon. I'm going to start off the presentation by talking about how the leadership that Jack shows in this scene is a great example of the servant leadership theory. So at first glance, watching the clip, I wanted to write about how this is an example of how Jack uses the process theory of leadership, which is a leadership approach in which the interactions between the leaders and the followers are what matter. Also, in order to show the process theory, the leader has to be a good leader with good leadership characteristics, but the follower has to have, I guess you could say, follower characteristics, which is kind of how I interpreted it. Um, but further analyzing and learning about all the different theories, I think that the theory that this clip shows most is servant theory. Um, Although servant theory is directly related and you can add it on to the process theory, the reason why I think that uh, it's mostly servant theory is just all the things Jack does to help everyone throughout the whole clip. So at first, I thought it was process theory because the process theory of leadership is believed that leadership can be learned, and this scene proves that pretty well. So Jack, being a trained doctor, is able to do all these things, help all these people, lead all these people. Someone with no experience as a doctor wouldn't have really been able to show leadership in the situation quite like Jack did, such when he's saving Rose's life, um, helping Claire, the pregnant woman. Uh, Someone who's not a trained doctor, obviously, in the scenario, would not have the knowledge and know how to do these things and lead these people in the right direction and help them out, which I think proves that leadership can be learned in a way, because someone can learn you know how to resuscitate someone in the right way, and in that sense you can lead others. And I guess in this clip, if Jack really wasn't a doctor, uh, he wouldn't have been able to do all these things and he wouldn't have been able to help all these people and lead them. So in the scene where Boone is giving Rose mouth to mouth resuscitation, Jack sees it and immediately jumps to the rescue. Being a doctor, Jack notices that Boone's doing something wrong and he corrects him. Boone, being another leader, having leadership characteristics throughout the show, um, questions Jack's leadership. He asks him, "Oh, are you sure I'm doing this wrong?" Which I think can be seen as a failed example of process leadership. So if Boone were replaced with a character such as Hurley, who has more follower characteristics, I would say, then I think he wouldn't have had any issues leading Hurley in the right direction. So Jack realizes that Boone's not going to be of any help, so he sends him to go do another medial task that doesn't really mean anything. And I think that it's a failed example of process leadership, because Jack, I guess, should have directed Boone to go look for someone else to help instead of having him go do a meaningless task. Another reason why I think that the clip doesn't really show process theory all that well is because there's not much interaction between the leaders and the followers. The only real interaction that works in Jack's favor in terms of being a leader um, is between him and Hurley, when he tells Hurley to get Claire away from the fumes, away from the crash. But even then, Hurley doesn't really follow directions as well as he should have, and it almost got all three of them killed. So I would say that's pretty much another example of how there's failed leadership there in terms of the process theory. Um, and it just shows that the characteristics of Hurley versus the characteristics of Jack uh, didn't really work out in that situation, because Hurley, not being a very smart person, put them both in danger. So the exchange between the two were not as productive as Jack would have hoped for it to be. Um, Although servant leadership is not a complete theory, I think that the clip shows it very well. Um, it could also be argued that this theory can be used in addition to many other theories, but I think that servant leadership is pretty much on the forefront here with Jack. So There are some issues apparently with servant leadership that a lot of people have, which are that it's believed to be incomplete because a lot of aspects of leadership, such as directing and concern for production, are missing in the definition of the servant theory. And it's also because researchers are really unable to reach a common consensus on the real definition of the theory. But for the sake of this example, I'm going to be using the Greenleaf definition of servant theory, which is what we learned in the textbooks. And I'm quoting here, but so the Greenleaf definition from the textbook, the Northouse, is servant leadership begins with a natural feeling that one wants to serve. And the best test of it is, do those served grow as people? Do they, while being served, grow healthier, wiser, and freer, and also more likely to become servants? So, of course, in these clips, Jack's obviously making them quote unquote healthier by saving them and helping them out, but he also makes them more likely to become servant, which is made apparent in the later episodes and also later on in the first episode. So I think it was fairly it worked fairly well. So the Greenleaf definition of in the Greenleaf definition of servant theory, there's 10 characteristics of a leader, and I think that in the clip, Jack showed all 10 characteristics. So listening, empathy, healing, awareness, gentle persuasion, conceptualization, foresight, stewardship, commitment to the growth of people, and building community. Listening, just kind of listening to what I guess Claire was saying about how she's pregnant, 8 months pregnant, ask her all these questions. Empathy, having empathy for Claire, wanting to help her out because he sees the situation she's in. Healing, heals the man whose leg is hurt with a tourniquet. Awareness, he becomes aware of the metal plane wing about to fall on Claire and Hurley. Gentle persuasion, I guess you could say, how he persuades Hurley to help out Claire. Foresight, he has foresight to see that the plane wing is coming down on top of Claire and Hurley. Stewardship, basically just helping others out. Commitment to the growth of people, I guess you could tie into healing. And building community, I guess you could tie into healing as well, just kind of saving everyone, getting people behind him, getting followers, because people see him as a strong person, an important person to have around, a smart person. So I think that servant theory is shown a lot better than process theory in this clip, is because a servant leader is mostly concerned with putting the followers first, others first. And it also works best when the leaders have a strong motivation to help people. So in this clip, obviously Jack has a super strong motivation to help people. He's not extremely injured, but right after a plane crash, a lot of people would take some time for themselves in order to make sure they're okay. But Jack's desire to help people is really shown as soon as the first person he sees in need of help, the man stuck under the big piece of metal, he immediately corrals others to come over and help, and helps the man using his doctor knowledge and makes him a tourniquet. So another example of Jack showing servant leadership is when he hears Claire yelling, "Help me." He immediately runs to her aid with no concern other than hers. And you could see in the clip that Jack is pretty concerned about this girl, even though he doesn't even really know her, or he doesn't know her at all. And while he's helping Claire, you could also see him look up at Rose, who's trying to get resuscitated, or Boone is doing the resuscitation. And as soon as he sees this, he calls over Hurley to help Claire, just so he can go help someone else. So like, even while he's helping Claire, all he has in his mind is to help as many people as possible. So, and I guess the last and most obvious example of his servant leadership in this clip is when he notices that Claire and Hurley are sitting under the wing of the plane, which he realizes is about to fall on top of them. So without hesitation, he runs to their rescue with no second thought about his own well-being or safety, and he saves them from certain death while also escaping it himself. So I think that just in terms of Jack's ability to help people and his willingness to help people, I think the servant theory of leadership is the best example of what is shown in the clip. So thank you.